So I am back yet again expanding upon this cyberpunk city, and I wanted to add an apartment block to the city as I feel it's very fitting for a any city, not just a cyberpunk city, to have. I do want to give a quick heads up. I have a visual glitch with sleeping bags all over the first half of these clips. I'm very sorry for it. There's nothing I can do about it. But the bottom half of this apartment block is actually going to be a Ripper Dock. So in Cyberpunk 2077, a Ripper Dock is like a back alley surgeon who specializes in installing and modifying cyberware. So mechanical or digital upgrades that replace or per se enhance parts of the human body like new eyes, reinforced limbs, or neural chips. They operate outside traditional medicine, so often in small, unregulated clinics like this one. And their work sits somewhere between healthcare and black market engineering. People go to Ripper Docks not just to recover from whatever injury, but to also upgrade themselves for combat, work, or just survival within the city. So I did decide to also expand on my cybernetics on my skin. As I'm adding more and more builds, I'm slowly adding on more cybernetics to fit the theme of these videos. As you can see, I have a Send of His Son on the back, which I'm so sorry if you don't know what that is, but you should probably watch Edgerunners. And I really like the way that it looks. It also kind of fits with the fact that I now have the building upgrade from the Jobs Plus mod. By the way, this is on a mod pack called Better Adventures Plus, and it is part of the server, the Flow SMP. You can join in the description. I really like the way that these upgraded cybernetics turned out. I'm drawing these all by hand onto my own skin. Also, you may notice that I am a little bit shorter in this video, and possibly in the last half of the last video, our moderator on the server, Peptic, decided to make everybody their real heights. And it looks like I'm really short. I swear I'm not that short in real life. I'm 5'3", but because my Minecraft is on a 2-meter basis, I look insanely short, and I honestly can't even really see above one block and one slab on top of each other. It makes for good convenience into fitting into small places. I feel like these should probably have... This building was also inspired by an image I found on Twitter by Rio. I will have that linked in the description. I want to give credit where credit is due. I definitely had my own weird adaptation as time went along. I wasn't going to copy a build outright in the first place, but also I want to find a building that fits into the city and really serves the function of quote-unquote the people, even though it's just a few of us living in this city. So you may have noticed the title, and I've done a lot of talking. I haven't talked anything about the title. I wanted to talk about Minecraft YouTube's originality problem. I've kind of been noticing this a lot recently, and it's something I wanted to speak up about. I think when people speak about originality in Minecraft building, the conversation often becomes unnecessarily absolute. Either something is original or it isn't. In practice, that distinction is not especially useful. Every creative field operates through reference. So architecture builds on precedent, film borrows the framing, pacing, and visual language of other films, music repeats structures and often reinterprets them. Minecraft kind of sits inside that same system. There's a phrase I keep returning to, BOO's reheated nachos. Whether or not there is a precise origin for it, I can't really tell if I made it up or if I saw it somewhere. The idea is pretty sound. A technique appears. In most cases, I find it's originated from BOO. It works, obviously, and it spreads. People adopt it, they refine it, and pass it along, which isn't necessarily a failure of creativity, but more so how the craft develops. But there is a quiet distinction between learning a technique and forming a point of view. At the moment, I've noticed that much of the survival building space feels as though it's kind of circulating within a relatively closed loop. The same environmental references appear with some regularity. Primarily found from beans and apples, coastal towns, pine forests, harbors lined with painted wooden structures, boats placed in the same arrangements. Even when there is no direct copying, convergence is pretty noticeable. The palette, the proportions, the structural decisions, they all tend to arrive at very similar outcomes. It's a similar situation with video structure. There's a format that has been proven effective. Introduce the build, move into a cinematic time-lapse with a very specific pacing and music profile, and then return and explain your result. It's a very coherent structure, I'll admit. It communicates everything really clearly, but when it is adopted without adjustment, it can sit slightly apart from the person presenting it. There are moments where the format feels inherited rather than chosen. This is where the conversation kind of moves from imitation to longevity. In the early stages, I'll admit imitation can be very useful. It can help someone understand pacing or competition or technical execution. It also serves the practical purpose where familiarity tends to perform well. Audiences recognize the structure and the aesthetic and the rhythm, and they know how to engage with it, which definitely opens a door. But remaining in the room is a different matter. Presentation can create access, but it doesn't inherently sustain interest on its own. Over time, the work has to develop a certain internal consistency. Not necessarily originality in the absolute sense, but a sense that decisions are being made from within rather than assembled from what already exists around it. This is really particularly relevant for newer creators. It is entirely reasonable that someone's first few videos resemble the creators they admire. 3 to 5 videos of that nature is not only common, but I find pretty necessary. It allows for someone to experiment within a known framework. They already know what they like, and there's no real benefit in expecting immediate distinction. The question is whether that stage remains temporary or if someone falls into the repeated trap. It's really difficult to accept that a large number of creators independently arrive at the very same setting, the same palette, same structural language as a long-term preference. The available range of references is so much broader. Architectural history alone offers a vast catalog of forms, industrial zones, dense urban grids, arid landscapes, historical European cities, modernist developments, infrastructural environments. Beyond that, we have film production, design, game environments, photography, and so much other visual media. There are definitely creators who approach this differently, and I refuse to mention anyone in a negative light. But channels like Dye often incorporate references that clearly come from outside this whole Minecraft ecosystem. You can see editing styles influenced by film pacing or documentary structure sometimes. And the builds themselves sometimes reference historical Japanese architecture or game environments that aren't already circulating inside the survival building scene. The techniques may still come from the community, but the visual ideas originate from somewhere else. A similar approach appears in the work of de Lestouge, whose builds frequently draw from French urban architecture. Same architectural language obviously predates Minecraft, but applying the contemporary Minecraft detailing techniques to these forms creates something really distinct within the game and the community itself. The building tools are shared, but the references produce a different outcome. That difference isn't inherently theatrical or dramatic, it's rather subtle. And it appears in the small decisions, the proportion, pacing, composition, the restraint. But over time, those small decisions accumulate into something that feels more of its own. There is also a structural point here about how ideas move through smaller channels. A mid-sized creator establishes a recognizable approach. Most commonly, I'm referring to beans and apples. Smaller channels adopt that approach, then somehow even newer channels reference those even smaller channels. With each step, the reference chain becomes slightly more condensed. Not inherently incorrect, but definitely narrower. Eventually, the work all begins to resemble itself. Again, this is not necessarily about intention. Most creators are not deliberately copying anyone. They're working within what is visible to them. The issue is not effort, but the size of the reference pool. This is something I've had to confront in my own work. My first video was very heavily influenced by another creator, Flow State. It's no longer on my channel because I don't think it represents how I think about structure and pacing now, nor do I think it was some of my best work. Over time, I've tried to develop something that feels more consistent with my own perspective and what I want to communicate to the world. Obviously, that process still involves influence, but I make an effort to look outward, to music videos, different editing approaches, and environments from games like Cyberpunk 2077, which operate on a very different visual language. None of this is an argument for pure originality. That standard is neither realistic nor particularly useful. The more practical aim is coherence, a sense that the work fits the person making it, that the structure, the pacing, and the visual decisions feel considered rather than inherited. If there is a piece of advice in all of this, it is relatively simple. It is acceptable to begin by following what works, and even often necessary. But it should not be the place where things stop. The sooner the reference pool expands into other forms of media, other disciplines, other environments, the more room there is for variation. Imitation can help someone enter the space and can provide clarity at the beginning. But over time, the work tends to reveal whether it is being shaped from within or assembled from what was already circulating in a field that depends on creative interpretation. That distinction becomes more apparent the longer someone stays. Let's get back to building now.
Oh, there we go.
I also did not know that.
Hey, guess what? Guess what, Sophie? You're starting to subscribe.
I had a lot of people visit, so as I said earlier, this is on the Flow SMP, and a wonderful thing about the Flow SMP is we have weekly events. I believe this was right before our open mic. We all gather at one of the town halls or locations that we have, and we share songs, stories, literally anything of entertainment, sometimes photography, and it's a very nice community event to get to know people and to really feel like you're a part of something. Definitely one of the reasons that reinforces why I will never be leaving the Flow SMP as long as I can help it.
Next to it, the redstone dust glowed even brighter. Could it be a conductor? With trembling hands, Esmeralda placed a length of redstone dust next to a wooden lever. Villagers crowded around, their faces lit by flickering torches. With a deep breath, Esmeralda pulled the lever. A gasp rippled through the crowd. A nearby torch, seemingly on its own, flared to life. The discovery sent the village into a frenzy. Redstone dust, once a curious oddity.
Anyways, I have no clue what he was reading. Don't know where it came from. I think he found some book that someone had written on the server, and possibly that's where it came from. But we're all just hanging out for around 2 or 3 hours on the server, and I got a lot of building done. I've slowly worked my way up into the actual apartment blocks and started furnishing them all.
Don't ever say Zoe like that. We're up doing an Instagram reel.
Zoe princess. Woo.
As I was building also, I designated some apartments to different members of the server, especially people who had lended me stuff along the way and throughout this whole city. So that apartment that I just showed was Aqua's house, the guy who's reading. And I wanted to furnish it a little bit for him so he had a place to stay if he ever chose to come and visit Cyberpunk. I found this build very refreshing because it was kind of nice to work in a somewhat repetitive pattern on what I was doing. I just went up every single story and I had a sort of system for the gradient I was working with. The actual gradient transitioned a lot lower, but for all of the blocks that represent the variation in different stones, different white stones, I would place an order of things next to each other: calcite, polished diorite, and then regular diorite, using the birch logs as intermittent stuff to break up the pattern and not have it be too noticeable. And then I also decided to leave the windows open, as mobs aren't inherently an issue when you're multiple stories up. I think it also adds to a nice airy element and prevents too much glass happening in the city, especially because I feel like it can be very easy to fall into the trap of using so much glass in a cyberpunk city. There are also different elements that I wanted to use glass for, like these vending machines that I had placed on every floor. In Cyberpunk 2077, they also have vending machines on every floor and sometimes in apartments of the mega blocks, the big numbered buildings that serve as residential quarters for a bunch of people. I put a vending machine on every floor, and every single floor has a different theme of vending machine, so different food that's in it, and it gets stocked with Farmer's Delight food. And I also added some in the alleyways later on into this build. These tube lights also were a really great touch in my head, as they add to a kind of sketchy lighting. It would be so cool if they actually made some humming noise in Minecraft, but unfortunately they do not. As part of my efforts of this apartment, I also included AC units in these balconies that are kind of closed off, almost like sunrooms. I think they also would hypothetically function as dehumidifiers in an actual city. I know this type of architecture is really common in China and Hong Kong, and that's part of where the idea came from, as well as the reference that I had. I was finally at the penthouse of the apartments, which I feel like it took me forever to get here, but in reality, I think I built this in 4 days total. So I haven't fully furnished every single one of these apartments, but for the most part, they are pretty furnished. They have somewhat of a kitchen, somewhat of a bed, and some of them have a little bit more decor than others. I know one of the apartments, which I labeled Bandit's apartment, don't know if he knows that yet. I have squatters living there with a fire and a bunch of random redstone compartments. Another major part of building a city like this is because of Elytra and because of Happy Gas, it's very important to me that the roofs of buildings look really nice. So for the exterior side of this roof, I wanted to do kind of a service area that is somewhat in between storage and somewhat in between utilities, but also had to function as a hallway into the penthouse due to where this quote-unquote elevator is placed. I think I'm gonna start using the scaffolding a lot more as an elevator. I think it's almost the perfect block to be an elevator without doing like the annoying soul sand water bubble column that doesn't always fit with the vibe of cyberpunk in my head. I had this like bunker style going on with the top part of this and decided to use mangrove roots, partially because I had a lot, but also because I think the color complemented this build really well, to kind of add a window detailing element. I've definitely expanded my palette a lot more with doing multiple layer windows. I did on last build and I have done a little bit on this build, and I think it makes things look a lot better overall. I can't believe I used to be so against them. Then again, building in a cyberpunk context means that I can add a lot more bulk to a building. It can feel a bit more brutalist and concrete and stone heavy than a cyberpunk building or a solarpunk building like I was used to doing. I also went ahead and added some greenery to the upper part of the roof just to add that snazz back and really fit with the vibe of the rest of the city. As part of my efforts to jazz up the exterior of the building, I also added lanterns hanging off the side of the building, which especially look nice over the water. I went through quite a few variations of the design at first. Originally, I had fence gates, chains, and regular lanterns, and although they looked pretty decent, they looked somewhat empty, and I wasn't 100% satisfied with the way they looked. So I added copper golems instead to it. And I think that was a really good finishing touch. It adds some like decorative element to the lanterns. And it's just overall a good pop of color underneath all of the banners that I had. To be quite candid, I was not going to add a shop to the side of this building, and this part of the build kind of came out of nowhere. I don't even really remember what triggered me to do this, but I wanted to add a little shop on the side, which I ended up making into a netherite upgrade template shop. And the main motive behind this, in the end, wound up being this massive hologram on the side of it. In Cyberpunk 2077, a standout feature of the game is the ads. There are so many ads in the game that will add to the overall storytelling of the game and the immersiveness of the game. So part of my effort to do that was this massive banner of ads that go up into the sky, similar to what you'd see on top of most of the skyscrapers in Cyberpunk 2077. And I did that by experimenting a little bit with end rods and glass. In my test world, I do have a test world, I went ahead and did a few variations of this with a few different variations of widths. And originally it was going to do entirely glass panes, but I think adding the solid glass blocks in the middle add to the solidity and opaqueness that is kind of required for a banner of ads. And I really randomly placed these different colors of glass just to look like it was saying something. As much as I could have gone into this and actually come up with a pixel art design of something, I think the idea of something abstract really plays with the color of the city very well and doesn't detract too much from the other builds in the city. I also added some glowing item frames with echo shards and this villager dust to it to give a more opaque element and to give a little bit more purpose just so it wasn't too vague. I also received several questions about this. Just to clarify, I don't use Lightmatica for almost anything I build. In fact, the only thing I've used Lightmatica for this far is the fish hologram and the tree on my last builds. I don't really believe in doing stuff in creative first. I think it's more fun to build with the flow in survival. After all of that building, I think it took me about a week. That completes this build of the Cyberpunk City.